Hi, I'm Rachel Senes with City TV, and welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. Today we are coming to you from beautiful Shoreline Park, and as you can see, this park offers incredible ocean and harbor views. Well, for the past several months, we have been closely following Plan Santa Barbara, the city's general plan update process. This month, we're bringing you some of the hot topics of Plan Santa Barbara, and we found that they all have one thing in common. We've all heard the word sustainability, but what does it mean to you?
It means living within our means, reducing our carbon footprint, being very conscious of our day-to-day activities.
I think what most people mean by it is, can we keep economic activity without importing more people, more buildings, more whatever?
Sustainability, I think, fundamentally is leaving for the next generation as good or better a planet as we have today.
The United Nations defines sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
Our future is too important to be decided without all of us.
In the 70s and 80s, living within our resources was a very forward-thinking term. Back then, the city's general plan did not take into consideration the larger global issues we see emerging today, like peak oil and climate change. Now, sustainability touches all aspects of the general plan, like transportation, housing, land use, and even our socioeconomic relationships.
If people can't afford to live here, then they're going to have to commute here. And if they can't afford to drive here because the cost of gasoline is so high, then what's going to happen? What are the implications for our economy? And so affordable housing and transportation, those are really big issues in terms of sustainability.
If you're looking at Santa Barbara County, the median income is about $65,000. And then the problem with the median price of a home is that it's drastically different between the North County and the South County. So the countywide median is around $400,000. If you're looking at simply in the city of Santa Barbara, it's about $1 million and about $67,000. Santa Barbara is the 9th least affordable housing market in the country.
However, the city does have a significant amount of affordable housing. In fact, it constitutes 12% of all housing in Santa Barbara. According to UCSB economist Bill Watkins, the city's housing issues are directly related to its isolation.
Beverly Hills is a very expensive place, and you don't hear any talk about the need for affordable housing in Beverly Hills. And the reason for that is, at a very short driving distance, there is about as low-cost housing as you can find. But Santa Barbara's isolated, and we also have an economy that's dominated by tourism and retail and services, low-paying services. So they don't pay enough for a commute, especially as gas prices get higher. And so is that there's low-wage workers who can't afford to commute. Several of them live in a single house or apartment. Top-end people can afford to live here, and there's no problem. It's that middle management that's commuting. And that commute, until the gas prices started rising, has been getting worse and worse. And in the long run, there needs to be a solution for that.
And that solution needs to address more than just getting from point A to point B.
The city has now included us in the development review process. So if any larger project is coming on board that might need to have bus shelters, or they want to know where the best place to put a bus stop would be as it relates to it, we work with the city and transportation so that we can say, okay, yeah, a bus stop would work here, help us identify a safe location for that stop, and then we implement it.
Sustainability also touches on land use and urban design.
It just came out that for the first time in the history of mankind, we are now, more people live in urban environments than not. And that it's projected that that will increase to 70% in as little as 5 years. That's not a bad thing. That is potentially a good thing, because in an urban environment we can be more efficient in our footprint on the earth.
So if sustainability affects all these issues, what does it mean for Plan Santa Barbara?
we feel that a lot of the policies that are in our general plan today are really good policies, and they're very sustainable. But there are some differences, some areas of differences of opinion in the community on how a problem should be defined and how it should be approached.
Discussing how it should be approached comes in the form of draft policy options.
Draft policy options are what occurs before a decision has been made. That's why it's called draft. Policy options are choices that we can make or have before us, or ideas that we can process through to help us come to a good conclusion for the general plan update.
Although existing policies may already be working well, there is always room for improvement.
Well, it's been great to hear through the Plan Santa Barbara process that transportation and public transit are very high on the priority list for all the citizens of our community. So ideally what we'd like to see come out of this planning process is encouragement of development along existing transit corridors. For example, our State Hollister corridor, which we have 10-minute frequencies, is an ideal location for development to occur because it's very cost-effective to serve population centers along that corridor. So we can offer the frequency, and frequency is what gets individuals on the bus.
What we need to do as a community and a state and as a society is integrate the planning better so that we are having transportation and an urban design and environmental considerations along with the housing.
Where does the housing work best to facilitate not just that goal, but also the tremendous need we have in the community to house our workers, to have a divergent, a mix of folks who are living here as opposed to all the workers living somewhere else and commuting in. And then, of course, we have to preserve open space.
This process is more important than most people can really consider. In the next 20 years, what's going to happen energy-wise in this country is going to totally change the fabric and the nature of our economy. How we grow our food, how we deliver our resources, how we move about the community, and what the economic vitality of each of our communities is going to be severely challenged. Now's the time to think about how Santa Barbara in this region can really look forward to being independent of energy resources such that we can have a strong economy and a vibrant community.
Sustainability and the general plan share a common trait in that they both look to strike a balance between the wants of today and the needs of tomorrow. But you can't find that balance unless you consider everything, including maintaining the city's small-town character. Fortunately for Santa Barbarans, we have a perfect forum to make those considerations known, and it is called Plan Santa Barbara. Tune in to City TV Channel 18 in July to watch a Plan Santa Barbara panel discussion of local experts. Log on to uplansb.org for more information on Plan Santa Barbara. Well, here at Shoreline Park, there's a bike path that people can enjoy every day. And in our next story, we show you why there are more reasons than ever to put power to the pedal.
Just 2 wheels and a pair of pedals can get you anywhere you want to go, especially in Santa Barbara.
It's healthy, and I just enjoy it.
Santa Barbara is probably one of the best places to ride in the country, if not the world. There's a very active bicycle community here which advocates for facilities for bikes. So we have things like the bike station, we have a lot of dedicated bike lanes, and we have a network of bike routes that you can go pretty much anywhere, Santa Barbara, Goleta, Carpinteria.
When it comes to making Santa Barbara a more bikeable community, the wheels are always turning for the city.
We have this bicycle master plan that's approved by the state, and the intention of the bicycle master plan is to make it easier for people to decide to ride, to improve the bicycle facilities we have and create projects to make it easier to ride. And then finally, our third goal is to make it easier at the destination for bicyclists to put in bicycle parking facilities, those types of things. We'd like to make bicycling as convenient as other modes of travel.
If you wanted to pick one of the least convenient and equal conditions in the city, the intersection of Mission and 101 would top the list. That's why the city has begun a project that adds a bike lane and makes other pedestrian improvements on Mission Street.
We're always looking for ways to improve the way our community can get from one side of the 101 to the other side of the 101, because it does kind of function like a river running through our community. There are only a handful of places where pedestrians and bicyclists and motorists can get from one side of Santa Barbara to the other side. So at Mission Street, we created a project to improve bicycling by putting in bike lanes from Modoc to Castillo Street. We're also putting in access ramps so that people using wheelchairs or strollers can easily get from one side of the 101 to the other.
Another example of a bicycle improvement is on Upper Chapala. Last year, the city reduced this part of Chapala Street from 2 driving lanes to 1 and added a bike lane. The idea for the project came from the residents of that popular street.
We started thinking about the redesign of Upper Chapala about 15 years ago. In 1998, we formalized that with a petition of neighbors asking the city to remove a vehicle lane and put a bicycle lane. And what justified that was the amount of the volume of traffic. There were, and there still are, about 5,000 cars a day. And when there were 2 lanes, they were racing each other, going at really quite phenomenal speeds sometimes, something like 40 miles per hour. If you compare the traffic counts with Bath and Castillo downtown that also have 1 lane, 1 traffic lane and 1 bicycle lane. And we argue that if they could do it, we could do too.
Not only does the new lane make biking easier, but there are bigger benefits for the community as a whole.
The big benefit is for people who drive their cars and for people who live around here. It is safer to cross the street, it is safer to go see your neighbor, it is a nice street. Everybody's ecstatic. I wouldn't say happy, I would say ecstatic with the results.
To celebrate and encourage all things biking in Santa Barbara, the city supports Bike to Work Week and Bike to Work Day. By the way, this type of alternative transportation could save the average American commuter 400 gallons of gas per year, so it's definitely worth giving a try.
The reason that we expanded Bike to Work Day to Bike Week is that we recognize that bicycling isn't suitable for every commuter in Santa Barbara. So we looked to increasing the number of options to educate our community through multiple workshops and presentations that we're offering this week in cooperation with the Santa Barbara Bicycle Coalition. We also thought that people, although they might not be able to consider riding their bike to work, they might consider riding their bike to the market, they might consider riding their bicycle to school, dropping off their kids at school by bicycle, even going to parks, or maybe even places of worship.
Here at Bike to Work Day, 2 blocks of State Street have been shut down so that all the bikers in the community can enjoy free food, music, prizes, and just celebrate the power of the pedal.
Bike to Work Day is a great event for people who regularly ride their bikes and enjoy other cyclists and get to meet other cyclists. It gives an opportunity for people that have never ridden their bikes to maybe just give it a try for one day and see what it's like.
One of the unique nonprofits in Santa Barbara is BC Centro. It's a low to no cost program where anyone can learn to properly build and ride bikes. Sponsored by the Santa Barbara Bicycle Coalition and partnered with La Casa de la Raza and the Fund for Santa Barbara, it's run by a group of volunteers that give instruction, advice, and inspiration.
BC Centro is a bike collective. We help people work on bikes. We take bike donations and we recycle bikes. We strip down bikes for parts that are used to help people repair their bikes when something breaks. We're about making biking affordable for those folks who depend on it and don't have a lot of extra money.
BC Centro celebrated in April with a new space and a special program for Santa Barbara's youth.
Those students come in, and as an after-school program, they get to choose a bike, build it up over 8 weeks. They do a road skills class so they can bike on the street safely, and they get a helmet, lights, and a lock, and a bike that they built themselves.
I don't have the hugest income, and I could, of course, go to a store and be like, here, I have this problem, and they'll deal with it directly. The thing is, I'm not going to learn anything that way, and I'm going to be spending money.
BC Centro also offers adult classes throughout the month that will further introduce you to your new best friend. Bikers in the community find it's not only a great way to get to work, but it's a whole new way of life.
Biking is good exercise. It's fun, saves gas.
When I get off the bike, I'm always in a better mood than when I started. It's a great way to maintain mental sanity.
Bikes are affordable, human-scale transportation. A bike is actually the most efficient vehicle ever devised.
Santa Barbara is an amazing community, and it's small enough to where you can bike anywhere in minutes. And you're going to spend a lot less time bicycling somewhere than driving your car and trying to find a parking spot, and then paying for parking.
And taking in the sights and the sounds of the city and the people versus sitting in my car waiting at a traffic light or listening to traffic reports. It's just a great way to get to work, and I'm so thankful to live in such a great community.
To find out more on biking in Santa Barbara, log on to our website, citytv18.com. Well, coming up next, we take you to the Santa Barbara Harbor. Although picturesque, that sometimes isn't the case below the surface. Why? Well, in our next story, we get to the bottom of it. What do you get when you mix trash and the ocean? As we recently found at our beautiful harbor, the result isn't pretty. Waste, like so many other things, does not stop at the water's edge, and here at the harbor is no exception. Ideally, that waste gets reused, recycled, or put in the trash can. But sometimes people can't resist just tossing it overboard. Out of sight, out of mind. Other times, it's unintentional. But whether it's by accident or on purpose, underwater trash is a hazard to marine life and boating safety. And that's when Operation Clean Sweep jumps in.
You can think of it as an underwater version of a highway cleanup project. And although Santa Barbara Harbor, as we all know, is one of the most beautiful, pristine harbors in the world, we want to make sure that the seafloor matches that as well.
The first step of Operation Clean Sweep is sending in divers to survey the seafloor. The result? This treasure map of trash, which shows what the items are and where. Circled in orange, you can see a high concentration of items in Marina 2C.
It's there. A lot of it's all commercial-wise, and a lot of their traps and ropes break because they have their holding areas right there and they tie off before they sell their product. And if the rope breaks or something like that, they don't go back down and get it.
For these sport and commercial divers, the cleanup mission turns into some friendly underwater competition.
Okay, it's like a big Easter egg hunt, and everybody tries to see who brings up the biggest or the most odd, unusual item. So at the end of the day, everybody's going, I found this, I found that. So there's a lot of camaraderie, with the divers to come up, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Although lots of fun, siltation can make the task of cleaning up challenging.
Because some of these items have been down on the seafloor for such a long time, they get silted in, and that silt and that mud is quite heavy, and so they got to jostle them loose, or they got to try and get them a little bit off the bottom and get them suspended so the seawater can wash some of the mud loose before the dock workers are able to actually pull them up and cart them off.
All the stuff found during Operation Clean Sweep gets put into this dumpster, and you'll be surprised to see what divers have come up with, including a lobster cage, construction cone, lawn chairs, garbage cans, and a whole lot more. Like tennis rackets, motor oil, entire bikes, and, can you hear me now? Even cell phones.
We found, weapons before that nobody even knew about. BB guns, different types of stuff, like that. And a lot of it's just more rubbish, people throwing their garbage over.
Not only is the water a little bit more clear, so is the mission of Operation Clean Sweep.
It's kind of like a fishing trip. They never really know quite what they're going to find, and it's exciting when they find something, and then there's always the reward of seeing it removed from the seafloor and seeing the goals of the mission being met.
The water's a lot cleaner. There's, more animals and stuff coming back to the area. It does make a difference.
Well, you may be wondering what happens to all that junk those divers found. It all goes to Marburg, where crews separate what can be recycled. Well, this area of Shoreline Park is part of the many miles of park along our waterfront. Public open space, just like Shoreline Park, is prized in Santa Barbara. And up next, Van Tu shows us how one dense neighborhood is to gain a space of their own.
1, 2, toss them. Woo! 3.
A groundbreaking ceremony marked a new home to be built on the west side. But it isn't your ordinary house. This one will be open to the public, literally. Here at the intersection of San Andres and Victoria Streets, the Bonett expansion project will settle in.
Down below, we've got the existing park that's got all the active and athletic types of activities, but what we have along the main street here is an opportunity to create something that's more like a little plaza for the west side commercial area and residential area. And what's really nice about it is we're surrounded by a very dense neighborhood that doesn't just have kind of like a little quiet oasis.
A study completed by Pennsylvania State University showed that the highest-ranked benefits of parks were the sense of community they foster and the available space to socialize and exercise.
A lot of these houses don't have yards. They don't have a lot of space to just be outside, and that's one of the things we're expecting from this.
To add a unique spin to a unique space, the park's play area will be the frame of an actual house, complete with a rug of tiles decorated by neighborhood children.
The art that we're doing is really oriented toward little kids. It's very fanciful, so there'll be little doorways and train tracks and mine tunnels and things like that, just sort of hidden in the park, so kids can go out and explore.
The city and West Side leaders are hopeful that the expansion of Bonett Park will be a welcomed neighbor to all, and that families will enjoy this new house on the block.
Open space is so invaluable, and as we build out in this community and we become more dense and we watch the projects up and down this street come along, this will mean more every year.
This is going to be such a unique and artistic park that it's just going to be kind of a jewel in the crown here.
The lower portion of Bonett will remain open during construction, and the project is expected to be complete in August of this year. Well, if you're looking for a fun activity that doesn't include a lot of joint-jarring impact, you'll want to watch our next story. In it, Dominique Blocker gets inside the action of one popular program for both the young and the young at heart.
Where can you find friendly competition and high-speed action in Santa Barbara? Well, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, you can find that and more at the Carrillo Street Gym. It doesn't require special attire or expensive equipment. It's table tennis. And don't even think about calling it ping pong. So just take it real easy on me, okay?
No, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to absolutely kill you.
Table tennis is just one of the many adult activities offered through the city's Parks and Recreation Department. From ballroom dance to basketball, there's something for everyone in the Active Adults program. Over the years, table tennis has been one of the most popular activities. And if you ask participants, the appeal lies in its simplicity.
Heard the sound, ping pong, and it was the lure. It was the lure of the ball, I call it. And I went in and started playing, and then we moved up here shortly thereafter and really started playing again. It was fun.
It used to be a senior-only activity. It had a fairly good attendance rate here. We had at least 3 tables filled up every time we offered it, and it was 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And about 8 years ago, when we changed our program name from Senior Recreation Services to Active Adults, we absorbed adult activities as well as the senior activities, and we opened this program up to adults as well. So as you see in here today, we have a mixture of adults and seniors, which I think is very healthy for the community to mix generations.
And though participants aren't pumping iron or racing up and down the basketball court, they are getting a great workout.
I think it's great no matter what level you're at, because I figured that chasing the ball is a big part of the game too, and you're bending over, you're running, you're in constant action, whether you're really making winning shots or losing shots or whatever. And you're also thinking a lot because there are a lot of spins, there's a lot of different speeds, you have to judge the opponent's ball. It's really a marvelous exercise. And it's a lot harder than it looks, but like I said, you can play it at any level and have a lot of fun and get great exercise, no matter which you are, a beginner or an expert.
Another benefit of the table tennis program is the mix of ages. Here, the young often seek the advice of the old and learn you can't underestimate someone just because of their age. You ready?
I'm old, yes, but I'll play.
One thing you'll notice, you'll see
kids, 7-year-old kids playing this game, and 90-year-olds playing this game. Now, most other games, you can't do that.
By connecting adults with seniors, you're creating a more connected community. You don't have these isolated populations that we tend to perpetuate.
Table tennis makes for a great workout and mixes generations, but that may be missing one of the most important aspects of the sport. Table tennis is a social game.
This has just become part of their life. A lot of the players that you see here are here every time that we're open, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's just in their routine. They have friendships that they develop here, so they're coming for the social component, and I think that's very important. If you have fitness programs that don't have a social component to them, you see a really high drop-off rate. And here, these players that you see have been here for years, and like I say, it's healthy for the community, and it's very healthy for the participants.
It's just a great workout. Meet a lot of people.
Oh, I think it's terrific. I mean, being a newcomer to Santa Barbara, I'd say the people I know the best in Santa Barbara tend to be the table tennis players, and we do have a lot of fun.
For the players, table tennis is more than a fun activity. It's really become a part of their routine.
I spend 3 days a week, 3 hours each of those days, and then I feel like it really enlivens me for the rest of the day, and I've gotten a lot of exercise, and I feel good at the end.
I've enjoyed it tremendously. I mean, it's part of my life, and will stay that way.
So if you're up for a challenge, and of course some fun, come and check out the competition. And just maybe, you'll be lured by the sound of the ball as well. And by the way, just in case you're wondering,
Ping pong is not a dirty word. However, they don't prefer it. They like the name table tennis, which is the official name of the program.
Which is pretty good, huh?
If you want to try your hand at table tennis or volunteer to lead a different activity, stop by the Carrillo Recreation Center. Well, that does it for this month's episode of Inside Santa Barbara and our time here at Shoreline Park. If you have any questions or comments about the show, give us a call at City TV at 564-5311. You can also catch us on our website at citytv18.com. I'm your host, Rachel Senes, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.
Oh my gosh.